Scooby. Hi, I'm Scrappy Doo.
Scrappy Doo?
Let me at him! Let me at him! Let me at him! Let me at him!
Scooby, Scrappy Dappy Doo, Scooby,
Scrappy Dappy Doo!
Scooby, Scrappy Dappy Doo.
Ta-ta-ta-ta-ta! Puppy power!
Scrappy Doo?
Uncle Scooby? Scrappy Dappy Doo!
Scooby-Dooby-Doo?
Hello again, my meddling Scooby Doo fans, and welcome to another review into the world of Scooby Doo. So in my last video, I continued my reviews of Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo with a review Season 2, Episode 2C of Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo. I hope you guys enjoyed that. We talked about how it was another terrible short due to the fact that the villain was weak, the motive was weak, there was no atmosphere, and the setting was quite repetitive and generic. But of course today, I'll be covering Season 2, Episode 3A of Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo, titled Mummy's the Word, which was released on November 22nd, 1980. The short synopsis of the first short is, while driving through an Egyptian desert, the guys are caught up in a sandstorm, and when they uncover themselves, they spot a pyramid and its spooky inhabitant, an ancient mummy. So normally I would tell you guys what DVD I'm watching this particular episode of Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo on. Unfortunately, Seasons 2 through 4 of Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo have yet to be released on any sort of physical media. So, just like in my past Season 2 reviews, and for future Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo reviews until we finish the show, and for the purposes of this review, I will be watching this short online, so apologies in advance for the quality of the short. Now, as far as the short's reception is concerned, I'm not really sure how fans feel about this particular short, but considering that I and many Scooby Doo fans, especially diehards, consider the shorts to be awful and terrible, I suspect that it's probably not viewed highly and is considered terrible just like all the other shorts. But with that being said, what's my personal opinion on this first short of Season 2, Episode 3 of Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo? Is it a good and underrated short? Is it another terrible and awful short that continues the trend of this series and the trend of these shorts? Or is it an average, decent, middle-of-the-road short? Well, let's find out, shall we? So let's take a look at the short to see whether I think it's a good or bad short of Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo. The short begins with Scooby, Scrappy, and Shaggy driving through the Egyptian desert and entering a pyramid, following Scrappy, who then tries on a pharaoh's head, scaring the others. They are chased by a live mummy and temporarily escape by disguising themselves as paintings. They are next attacked by crocodiles in an indoor lake, whom Scrappy easily takes care of. When the mummy finds them again, Scrappy merely unravels its bandages, but its spirit follows them outside. And the short ends with the gang seeing this as they still hear his moans and see his footprints and run to the mystery machine, driving off.
Why are we rushing?
Scooby-Dooby-Doo?
I'm going to give Season 2, Episode 3A of Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo 1 star out of 5. So yeah, we have another dumb and terrible short. No surprise there. These shorts all suck. They're not great. There's not much depth and story and mystery and plot to them. There's not much to dissect with these shorts compared to the usual Scooby Doo episodes. So yeah, like, it's the same old, not much really here. It's really just another time waster of a short. Another stupid and dumb and terrible short. I was able to find one positive, so before I get into the negatives of the short and what makes this short terrible in my opinion, I'll get into the one positive of the short that I did actually like. So the only positive that I have for this particular short is the setting itself. The main setting of the short I thought was pretty cool. So the main setting is this Egyptian pyramid in the Egyptian desert. And I thought the Egyptian pyramid was pretty cool. It had nice little set pieces. I think it was something new and fresh we hadn't seen in the Scooby Doo franchise up to this point before. I think in the Genie episode there was a pyramid, but I don't think we've had an episode yet that really fully took place in a pyramid. Yeah, sure, the Sandy Duncan one had a fake one, but this was an actual real pyramid in the Egyptian desert. So this was the first time that they used that as a setting. And I feel like they had enough cool set pieces to make it stand out and make it a good setting. Because, yeah, it is unique, but sometimes it being a unique setting doesn't always mean it's going to be good. But I do think it had enough cool set pieces to it that I actually did think the setting was passable and decent and worked for the short. I thought it was one of the better settings for these shorts. But that's all I got for positives for this short. So let's get on to the negatives of the short and the stuff that I really didn't like about this particular short. So starting with the negatives, my first one is that Fred, Daphne, and Velma are once again absent in the short. You guys know the drill. You guys know I don't like any member of the gang missing in a particular episode or short. So I don't like the idea of any member of the gang missing. I like the core 5 always being there. Just like how I'm not a fan of the additional characters because I feel like it's unnecessary and we don't need that. I also feel it's unnecessary to have members of the gang missing in an episode or a short like this. So for me, I don't like that Fred, Daphne, and Velma are absent from the short because they're just as integral to the story as Shaggy and Scooby. Then we have Shaggy and Scooby. Shaggy and Scooby were pretty weak in the short. They weren't their usual funny, cowardly selves. They weren't that humorous. They didn't have much humor going for them. Not really that funny. They weren't really that cowardly, in my opinion, either. They didn't really fulfill their basic roles in the short. They just were kind of there, not really noteworthy. Yeah, Shaggy and Scooby just didn't really do it for me. They just were more so just there and didn't really have the strong... didn't have the strong role that they usually play in an episode, which is being funny and cowardly. Next, we have Scrappy. Scrappy was also weak in the short. He was weak because, like Shaggy and Scooby, he didn't really stand out in any way. He was just kind of there. He wasn't his usual annoying self. He didn't set up stupid traps or beat up innocent people. But he didn't do anything of note, and he was just kind of there. So he really was just... It was just like a whatever short for him. Like, just like Shaggy and Scooby, like... He didn't really make much of an impact in this particular short. Then we have the villain of the short, who I thought was weak as well. So the main villain of the short is the Mummy. And I found the Mummy to not really be scary or entertaining. Now, that's not to say the Mummy didn't have a cool design. I actually did like the design of the Mummy. I think he had a neat little design. And I thought it was cool that he turned invisible at the end. But I will say that the reason I kind of consider the Mummy to be weak is that he just doesn't have really much of a presence and kind of has a lack of screen time. Like, there's a good chunk where Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy are just either exploring the pyramids for a little bit. There's also a good chunk where they're, you know, avoiding alligators in the water. So the Mummy isn't really as focused on as he should be. I think if they put more focus and emphasis on him, and maybe he had more of a screen time and presence, maybe he could have been one of the better villains of these shorts. But as it stands, I see him as kind of like wasted potential, essentially. He had the potential to be a good villain, kind of similar to Sylvester the Vampire back in episode 1 of season 2, but I think they just kind of dropped the ball with it due to his screen time and presence. I didn't really feel like he was scary or creepy or threatening or intimidating, but he also wasn't fun or entertaining to watch either because of his lack of screen time and his presence in the short. I think he needed more of a presence and more screen time to fully become a good villain in this short. If he had that, he probably would have been better, but as it stands, he just didn't really stand out in any way. Neat design, but again, just weak due to his screen time and presence. There was also no outside of costume element, so this was a real mummy. It was a real monster. You guys know I hate that. You guys know that I prefer a man or a woman behind the mask. I feel like that's essential to Scooby-Doo. I feel like human horror is Scooby-Doo's bread and butter. I feel like there's no reason to deviate from that because if you have real monsters and ghosts, it essentially just becomes another ghost hunting or monster hunting show. It doesn't really, you know, make it distinct and unique like Scooby-Doo was, because the thing that was distinct and unique about Scooby is that it showcased human horror, which was something that wasn't showcased a lot back in the 60s. A lot of horror was monster-based and ghost-based. Scooby was the first to tackle human horror, and I feel like that's Scooby-Doo's bread and butter. And so whenever they try to deviate from that and actually go for real monsters and real ghosts, I feel like they lose that magic and what made Scooby so special and just downgrade it to any typical ghost hunting or monster hunting show. So for me, I don't like that this is a real mummy. I wish it was a person in costume. I hate that there's no outside of costume element in this particular short. There were also no suspects in this short. This was due to the fact that, you know, besides Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy and the mummy, there really was nobody else there. It was a real mummy. The mummy came out of nowhere. And there was no mystery to the villain's identity. Like, we knew this was a real mummy. They pretty much made it clear, especially after the bandages were unwrapped. But you didn't know, like, where the fuck the mummy came from. He just came out of nowhere. But, yeah, because there's no mystery to the villain's identity and who he is, and because it's a real mummy, there's no suspects at all throughout this short, and it's just Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy, and this real mummy. I found the motive of the short to be weak as well. I had a hard time pinpointing what exactly the mummy's motive was. But the best I could come up with is that essentially the mummy's main motive is that he wanted to scare Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy away because he wanted them to leave his pyramid because he was territorial. That's the best I could come up with, was that he was territorial and just wanted them off his land, his pyramid, essentially. He just wanted them gone. That's what I gather from the short, and is it a unique motive? Yeah. But it's not an interesting one. It doesn't really have layers to it. It's not a fun or inventive motive. It's kind of boring. It's not really that. It's kind of weak, you know, not that great for me. It doesn't really stand out in any way. It's just like, okay, he's just territorial and he just wants them to leave. Like, not really much there for me to sink my teeth into. It's just kind of a, okay, not really that impressive of a motive, to be quite honest. But that's really the closest I could come to a motive for this mummy, because the mummy doesn't really have a motive spelled out for him in the short. And this isn't the first time in one of these shorts that a Scooby villain hasn't really had a motive spelled out for them. There was also no mystery in the short. I didn't really have any sort of lingering questions throughout this short about the main villain of the short or the setting. Though I will say, had the villain been better, there was the possibility that there could have been, you know, some mystery. So I'm not denying that there wasn't potential for mystery if the mummy was a better villain, because the mummy did show up out of nowhere, and while pyramids are generally known, especially Egyptian ones, for having their mummies, there is a sense of mystery about, you know, how did this mummy come alive? Who is this mummy? What is this mummy? Like, you know, why is it so territorial? You know, stuff like that. But I think the thing that makes me say that there's really not any sort of mystery in this particular short is that for me, I just find that it's not really, because the mummy's not strong enough and doesn't have much of a screen time or presence, I feel like those questions aren't as prominent as they could have been. I think there was potential for a mystery here. This was probably the first short that did have potential for some sort of mystery. But I think at the end of the day, they just kind of dropped the ball on it because the mummy was not strong enough as a villain for me to want those questions answered or ask those questions or be interested in those questions. So yeah, I felt like there really wasn't a sense of mystery in the short. There was potential, but they dropped the ball on it. There were also no clues in the short. Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy found no sort of clues that helped narrow down the list of suspects or help point towards a motive. It's because there was no suspect pool to gauge from, so there was no clues to serve that purpose. There also wasn't any clues to help point towards a motive, mainly because the motive was not only weak, but also somewhat not there. Like, it was kind of like, it's hard to even say if it even is a motive. I mean, it's the closest thing I can come to a motive, but yeah, there really were no sort of clues that Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy found throughout the short that helped them, you know, either narrow down the suspect pool because there wasn't any suspect pool, or help point towards a motive because the motive wasn't really as present and was not at the forefront. And it didn't even do the basics of proving this to be a person behind the mask because it was a real monster. It was a real mummy. So, yeah, no clues present whatsoever in this short. And my final negative is I found there to be no atmosphere in this short. I felt no tension or suspense or creepiness or eeriness from either the main villain of the short or the setting. Wasn't fearing for the gang's safety. Wasn't on the edge of my seat wondering what was going to happen next. Didn't find anything creepy or eerie about the main villain or setting. Completely devoid of any sort of atmosphere. The pyramid wasn't really that dark. The desert was kind of bright and vibrant, and popped out and it basically just popped out and stood out like a sore thumb. So yeah, there wasn't really a sense of atmosphere in this short like most Scooby Doo shows have. It didn't have that mature atmosphere that most Scooby Doo shows have. You could tell that it was not there, and it was more kiddie fun vibes for this short, and not the usual mature, downbeat, creepy, spooky vibes of most Scooby Doo shows. Overall, guys, I would personally not recommend this short to fans and newcomers of the show. Like I said previously, it's just another terrible short, and it's just a time waster. It's not worth your time seeking this one out. Did it have potential here and there? Yeah, some aspects did have a little bit of potential, so I'll give that some credit. It did at least have some potential, but besides this one and maybe the Sylvester the Vampire one, which was the second short of the first episode of Season 2, I feel like they're the only two shorts that really had any sort of potential. Most of these shorts were dumb, wacky hijinks shenanigans, and I don't think this one was really that. But I will say that it didn't really have much going for it. It just kind of felt like we were killing and wasting time, and there really wasn't much happening. It wasn't an overly long, wacky hijinks chase scene like the past three shorts have been, but it still was kind of bad and terrible and boring and a waste of time because it really had nothing going for it. It didn't really stand out. It just felt like we were just killing time for 7 minutes, and it didn't really serve a purpose. It didn't really have any plot or story that, Scooby-Doo is mostly known for. So, don't bother with the short. While it did have some potential, it's still terrible, and I still wouldn't recommend seeking it out. It's not worth your time. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Please give a like if you did. Comment down below your thoughts on the short. Do you like the short? Do you think I'm being too harsh on it? Do you disagree with me? Do you think there are more positives that you see that I don't see? Do you agree with me? Do you think this is a terrible short? Do you think it's, awful and one of the worst shorts of, the Scrappy Doo era? Or maybe you think it's below average and still has some positives, but it's still bad. Or maybe you're somewhere in the middle where you think it's decent and average and okay, but it's neither good nor bad. I'm curious for your thoughts, so let me know. And subscribe for more Scooby-Doo content like this, or if you're just interested in my other content, obviously I have more Scooby-Doo reviews on the way. This is a Scooby-Doo focused channel, so we cover all things ranging from the TV shows, movies, video games, and books. If you're a diehard Scooby-Doo fan, a casual, a newcomer, we basically talk all things Scooby-Doo. We don't cherry pick or discriminate any adaptations or versions of Scooby-Doo. We give love to all versions of Scooby-Doo, no matter our opinions on it. No matter what my opinion on each show, movie, video game, and book is, I will always give each, version of Scooby-Doo its love and attention it deserves, because it deserves to be talked about. It deserves to get attention, and we shouldn't be cherry picking and only talking about certain aspects of Scooby-Doo. I want all aspects of Scooby-Doo to be covered. I want all pieces of media to get the love and attention they deserve. So if you're someone like me who wants to join in on the discussion of each individual TV show episode review, movie review, video game let's play review, or book review, then come join the channel and experience some amazing Scooby-Doo content. In my next video, I will continue my reviews of Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo with a review Season 2, Episode 3B of Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo, titled Hang In There, Scooby. So yeah, before you ask, this title is very, very similar to Episode 3 of Season 2 of the Scooby-Doo show, which is also titled Hang In There, Scooby-Doo, with only the "Doo" separating the title. But yes, it's very similar, but no, it is not the same thing. It is a different episode. It does have a similar title. It is the same title, but I am talking about the short. I am not talking about the Scooby Doo show episode, Hang in There, Scooby Doo. If you want my opinion on that episode, I do have a playlist of the Scooby Doo show if you want to know my opinions on that particular episode. But no, I'm talking about the short titled Hang in There, Scooby. So, yeah, I expect the short's going to be terrible. I mean, can you blame me? These shorts haven't really been impressive so far. I'm going with low expectations. I'm expecting them to be bad, just like all the other shorts. Like I've said plenty of times before, maybe we'll find something good. Maybe we might find a diamond in the rough. Who knows? I highly doubt it, but it's worth trying. And if anything else, these shorts at least deserve to be discussed to at least get some recognition and notoriety out there and to get people's opinions on these shorts. Because it is nice to get more people's opinions on these shorts and get an idea of what people think of these awful shorts. Especially people who, you know, agree that they're terrible and share why they think it's awful as well. But of course, I'm open to people saying why they like them as well. But yeah, if you want to know my thoughts on Season 2, Episode 3B of Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo, hang in there, Scooby, then come join me tomorrow. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and as always, peace out.
Uncle Scooby? Hi, I'm Scrappy Doo.
Scrappy Doo?
Let me at him! Let me at him! Let me at him! Let me at him!
Scooby, Scrappy Dappy Doo. Scooby,
Scrappy Dappy Doo!
Scooby, Scrappy Dappy Doo.
Ta-ta-ta-ta-ta! Puppy power!
Scrappy Doo?
Uncle Scooby? Scrappy Dappy Doo!
Scooby Dooby Doo?